Madam Secretary, we've talked about it before on this show. I think we've talked about it with you. Back when in the good old days, when I was a Republican, I remember after you got into the United States Senate, behind closed doors, I would ask people about you when you were new to the Senate, how she's doing. And the same people who had skewered you as First Lady, who had used you as a political punching bag as First Lady, were saying, oh, she's great. She works hard. We love her. We love her on the committee. I remember Trent Lott telling me what an incredible colleague you were. How much they all loved working with you. You always came prepared, and it was nothing but positive. It reminds me of, when Joe Klein asked David Petraeus who knows the most about Iraq, and General Petraeus said, "You mean other than Hillary Clinton?" So I'm wondering, with all of the good, positive relationships you had in the United States Senate and all the great respect that flowed both ways in the United States Senate, how do you feel today looking at colleagues that remain mute in this time, I'll just say it, of political crisis, of moral crisis, of constitutional crisis?
I am so saddened by it, Joe, because you're right. I worked across the aisle. I had to. We had, big challenges. I was a senator from New York on 9/11. I was very conscious of how important it was that we try to bring not only the Senate together, but the country together. And I now look at people who were there as colleagues when I was a senator, and I don't understand what has happened to them. I keep looking for the Margaret Chase Smith, the great Republican senator from Maine, who was the first to stand up to Joe McCarthy. Other than Mitt Romney and on a few votes, a couple of others, there's been no consistent willingness on the part of the people that should be not only standing up for facts and evidence and against the kind of chaos that is generated by Trump. They just don't seem willing. I don't know why. I know the politics of it. They think that, that's not possible within the current state of the Republican Party, but that's not a good enough explanation, because when Russians are interfering in our election, when they're putting bounties on American soldiers, to stay silent is to be complicit. And that's what I don't understand. Why do they want their place in history to be tarred by this apology for Trump at every turn, or the silence that marks them when they're asked a tough question? And a couple of them who I knew better, I traveled with and thought I understood where they were coming from, even when we disagreed, have just been so surprising to me. I don't know what's going to happen if what I hope occurs, and that is not only Biden wins the presidency, but we take back the Senate, whether there can be a reckoning and a reassertion of the commitment to the institution of Congress and to, as we used to say, Joe, regular order, get back to solving problems. But the hate machine, the attack machine is so powerful. I mean, you were saying those nice things about me. Look, I left being Secretary of State with a 67% approval rating. And, it's tough to defend yourself day after day with all the falsehoods and the untruths and the out of context stuff. And so I know how hard this is, but honestly, I just wish everybody would put country before party or personal interest.
It's a strange question to close with, but I just wonder about the big tech companies and social media and Facebook, where, it used to be emails where conspiracy theories were passed along people who were believing something extreme. Now it's just churning at 1 million miles an hour. What should happen with these big tech companies to try and stop the lies from swirling around?
I think, Mika, that's one of the most important questions all democracies are facing. And I've been disappointed, particularly in Facebook. They have been unwilling to listen to the experts in their own industry about what more they could do. Their ad revenue, their clicks are driven by algorithms that, really promote hate and conspiracy. And that could change. I mean, it isn't beyond the ability of these smart tech experts to say, you know what, we are not going to give all this red meat, all of these lies, the high priority that we've been. In fact, we are going to try to present a much more contextual and frankly factual picture for people who use our services.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, thank you so much for coming on. Please come back, and we will be watching and listening. We want to mention then.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.